Welcome everyone to another Astral interview. And here with me, I have Susan. Susan, thank you and welcome. And thank you for joining us. I know these time zone differences really throw us off, but it's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Shiraz, and thank you for everyone who's going to be listening to this. I appreciate it so much. I'm down under in Brisbane, Australia, and I'm ahead of you, way ahead of you, a whole 18 hours, I think.
Yes, yes.
So I can tell you all about you tomorrows. I'm magic.
She is magic, and I'm going to get her to tell you about the magic a little bit later. But before we go into that, tell us a little bit about you. Like, tell us about your life. Tell us where you grew up. Tell us how it was when you were younger, where you were.
Oh my goodness! I have a story and a story and a story, and as a storyteller, I love telling stories.
Awesome.
It's years and years and years of storytelling, and that's what we wise women do. That's we tell stories.
And so we love basically stories.
Yeah, we do. So basically, my name is Susan Kathleen, and I'm currently in Australia. I was born in Africa, in Central Africa, and I'm British. Yeah, I got a British passport and all of those sort of things. But I was born in Africa. My dad was there on a contract. He was an airline pilot, and I happened to be born in, at the time, what was called Southern Rhodesia. It's now known as Zimbabwe, Southern Rhodesia. So Zimbabwe. That was central. Yes, so it's now known as Zimbabwe. Right. So in the old days, it was known as Rhodesia. And of course, when it became independent with the African countries, it changed its name to what they used to call it in their ancient times, which was Zimbabwe. And they have a whole structure and area there called Zimbabwe Ruins, which is fascinating. And they maintain that was built in the time of King Solomon.
Wow, that's right. That's right. I was born in Tanzania, by the way.
Oh, were you? Well, hello, my African girlfriend.
Exactly. I was born in Tanzania. I was 4 when we came to Canada.
Oh, brilliant. I love that. Well, there you are. I was born in Zimbabwe. And then when I was 11, my parents moved up to Malawi. Right. And so I sort of lived between those two countries and always going back to the old country, to England.
Right.
Aww. So off we went to England and all of that sort of stuff. I had a fascinating childhood growing up out in the bush with all the wonderful African animals and with the traditional African tribe that lived in that country, because I was on a farm. My first language was the language of the country. Swahili. I could speak that before I could speak English.
You can speak Swahili?
No, I can speak Shona.
Shona,
and I can, so that was because each country and many tribal different languages. But I can understand a bit of Swahili.
Jambo.
Jambo, eh?
That's awesome.
So growing up in that environment, I grew up in the areas where there were where the people who worked on the farm had witch doctors. In those days, it was politically correct to call them that. They're now known as medicine men or medicine women or sangomas. And so I grew up with all of that and always a fascination. And as a little girl, I was born seeing auras and things like that. Wow. I was always seen as a bit of an oddball. I didn't think I was, but that's what my parents kept saying. No, Susan, you can't tell people that you see those sort of things. It's not, no. So I was suppressed into being conventional.
Right.
Kinda. It was hard to do that to me. But with all of that, Shiraz, I have a rich environment of the most incredible life and storytelling. I've lived in and worked in many countries in Africa.
Right.
In many, in the Indian Ocean islands, Madagascar, Mauritius, Seychelles, those sort of places, and all the time going backwards and forwards to the UK and Europe. and doing that sort of thing. So I've
So
had this incredible.
what prompted you to go back and forth? What was it like?
Oh, well, when I was a little girl, I didn't have a choice. My parents were traveling around and doing stuff. My
Right,
dad was an
of
airline
course.
pilot, so we got sort of free flights and things all over the show, and off I went. But as I grew older, my passion and my love for humanity, for the people of the land, and for the animals, the flora and fauna, was just massive. So I spent a
Amazing.
lot of time in the African bush.
Okay.
And I started to learn herbalism and all of those sort of things. I was very lucky and fortunate to have that childhood. And I also grew up in the sort of compound area of where the workforce for the farm where
Right.
I grew up were in this capacity of being able to share their heritage and life with me. This
Right.
funny little white girl with white blonde hair and all these Africans, they were my friends. I didn't,
Right.
you don't understand skin color or race or anything like that.
No,
And I
of
was
course.
never brought up with that at all.
Right.
And so I have
Yeah.
many beautiful African friends from childhood. And I was brought up around the fires and the stories and the resonation of their rumbling, beautiful voices and their
Oh,
storytelling. Because
oh,
even then, many of them were they could save up for their eldest child and usually their son to be able to go to school. The rest of them had to work in a different way.
right.
So the way of being able to put forward any sort of lineage and history about them and their lives was through storytelling.
Ah,
So
wow.
I learned to
Wow.
be a storyteller from when I was little.
Right. Isn't that what a shaman is too? A shaman is
Absolutely.
innately a
Yes,
storyteller, correct?
that's exactly what we are. And then in my 20s, I met this incredible woman, a Yoruba priestess. She arrived at my door. By then I was grown up and I was educated in uh, well, as my tertiary education was various things,
Hmm.
and I had this passion for teaching because of my childhood. So at the
Right.
time I was working as a teacher, and this amazing little woman of Spanish heritage
Yeah.
um, arrived at my door, and I sort of looked at her. I'd encountered people before who sort of found me, who spiritually, I don't know what it is. You would have the same thing. You sort of
Well,
all end up
well,
together.
it's synchronicity, right? It's
Yes,
synchronicity. It's something you were putting out there, something you were calling forth, and it came to you.
absolutely.
It's
Yeah,
like,
and there you
oh,
go.
I feel like a pizza right now, and someone knocks on the door, and
Why not?
oh,
So, well, I tell you what, she was quite a pizza. She
yeah,
arrived there and she was all in white and she had this sort of white turban on. And
right.
hello. And she said, Susan. And I said, yes. And she told me who she was. And it transpired that she was a Yoruba priestess from Cuba.
Right. Wow.
And she said, I've come because I want you to be my apprentice. And I, I didn't quite know what she was talking about. I thought,
So
who's
how
this
did she?
weirdo?
So
I don't
why did
know.
she contact you?
She,
How'd she
she,
find
she,
you? Is
well, you talk about your team, your connection to a greater force, your
yeah,
guides.
yes.
She arrived. She said, "Here you are." And I said to her, "I don't know what you're talking about." I kind of thought she was weird. And my two little girls, I sort of pushed behind me, sort of
Right.
girls, this a funny little weird lady. Anyway, because I'm ever curious and I'm open to whatever it is because I'm different, like you're different. And well, all humans are different if you open up your portals to being
Absolutely.
different. So
Absolutely.
basically, what I did was I ended up finding out more. And she said, well, you know, it's full moon and I want to put a big bowl of water outside my house and I'm going to do this and I'm going to slaughter a chicken. And I sort of, my jaw dropped and I said, uh, well,
Why?
why? And she said, because I want to initiate you into learning from me.
Aw,
And coming from Africa, slaughtering a chicken
yeah,
isn't really scary.
unusual. Yeah, it's
You
not
get
as an
you get you
you,
get used
you
to them doing that.
get,
You
right,
don't buy them from the supermarket and think that that's
right,
how they've always been.
right,
Um, anyway, that's how I got initiated into starting to learn about shamanism.
right,
And of course, Yoruba, as you know, coming from Africa, is African.
right,
And of course, they practice that in Cuba.
right.
And so she had ties with Cuba, and just like I had ties with Africa
Africa.
and the UK, she had ties with Cuba and Spain. And
Wow.
she is a well-known um, a writer and poet and shaman
Right,
and also healer. She's a powerful healer. So that was
right,
my initiation into that.
right.
And then I,
So
I had been,
let-
I'd
tell us
been,
tell us a little bit about your initiation. What does that even mean? Like, okay,
oh, wow.
so she
It was,
comes in, she does all these rituals,
yeah.
and then what happens?
Well, she
Tell
did
us
it
the
all. I'm
story.
glad I didn't have to do what she did. She did moonlight and a big bowl of water to capture the essence, and had no clothes on. And I sort of was wondering, I didn't, she did. And I was wondering what the heck's going on here. And
Right.
I'm thinking the next door neighbor had a double-story house. So I was kind of concerned that they might have been looking out the window thinking, what is Susan up to now? And then she very kindly had the chicken sorted out before I had to watch the poor thing
Yeah.
having its head chopped off, because you know what chickens
Oh,
do, they have
yeah.
their head chopped off and they keep on running around, so you've got to catch the body when that happens. So
Oh.
I'm glad she did that first, and it was sort of there, and then she'd actually cooked it, so
Oh.
we had
You,
to share that. And
I mean,
I'm quite a veggie. I'm
yeah.
not really keen on a lot of meat, so I was
Right.
very polite, because I've learnt through African tradition that when they give you some food, it's a gift. It's a
Yes.
very generous gift.
Yes.
So I had a little bit of her chicken, which
Yes.
actually wasn't bad to eat, but it was all part of the thing. And then
Yeah.
she pranced and danced around and did what we shamans do.
Right.
I didn't quite know at the time. And there you are. And then I started going to her, and I learned about medicine and healing
Right.
and the power of, and in those days, it was a long time ago. I'm 65 years old.
Right.
So I was in
Right.
my
Well,
20s.
you don't look 65, so I don't believe you.
Well, thank you for that. I love it.
This
Part
is
of being,
shaman magic
it
happening
is. That's what
before your
happens
eyes.
when you open yourself up to this sort of thing. And also when you start to understand that time and everything else is an illusion. We
Absolutely.
are what we create.
Yes.
So what we're doing right now is what we want to be doing in our
In our
dream
here and
time.
now, in our present.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
yes, so I started to learn all of that. And as I say, it was a long time ago. We now understand the quantum field. We understand energetics. We understand epigenetics. We understand how we are, who we are through our lineage as well.
Right.
In those days, people thought if you spoke about that sort of thing, they thought you were a bit of a crackpot. We now know that we're all
We now,
interconnected.
yes, absolutely. We're all one.
So yeah, so Shiraz, that's what I did. I sort of
Yeah.
I started with that. I learned the power because I am an artist, and
Yeah.
I had actually trained to do art therapy and things, but I started to understand the power of art through teaching and
Right.
doing
So
that.
she comes into your life. You embrace this new teaching, this new
Yeah.
um, way of life, if I may call it that,
Mm.
now. And so, what was it that you were feeling inside you as this transformation was happening for you? Because here we are, somebody who didn't have this in their life, and now here you are with a whole new lifestyle, a whole new reality that's entered you quite by accident because you didn't invite it, knowingly, maybe subconsciously. There must have been something you were feeling at that time, like, Lord, what do you want me to do with this now? Or,
Well, I think a lot of us are in the same sort of, that's a really good question, by the way, because what a lot of us are in that we birthed into this world because we have written a sacred contract through the Akashic records. We have chosen the type of life that we're going to live. We choose the experiences we're going to experience. And when you become aware of these things, you also learn that those experiences, whether they're good or bad, are part of you in your growth period, being able to be a wonderful storyteller and teacher.
Right.
So from when a little girl, where I was being told, don't tell people that you can see those things. And right from when I was small, my family and friends would say, oh, can you please just touch me? It makes me feel so much better. So you go and do that sort of thing. And then you learn to suppress it. So so my teacher gave me the power to be who I truly wanted to be.
Right.
And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Yeah. And also, it totally is. And also, what's so important is when you actually live your truth.
Yes.
Many of us are not living our truth. However, Shiraz, I can say to you, in the last 4 weeks, I have connection with mainly women, but also a few men all over the world. And they're all coming into, they're coming into their sovereignty. They're all saying, hell no, I'm not doing the corporate. I've always been able to do something, because energetically we all have the ability to heal.
Yes, absolutely.
And if you can heal yourself, you can, everybody has
everybody. It's not even, it's innate. It's part of us. It's, just if you act, just do it, just try it, and you'll see that it just works,
Absolutely. And
cut your mind out of it.
Yeah. And the thing is, and I'm passionate about this, is when you start to understand that no man is an island when it comes to this. We are all interconnected energetically to spirit, to the universal spirit. Universal spirit is like this big pulsing powerhouse of energy, and we are all connected to that. Therefore, and what you want to traditionally call God, Allah, Buddha, whatever, we are all interconnected with this power force.
Yes.
And consequently, that power force is within us. So we have the right to have God within us.
Absolutely.
As the old teachings go, because in those days they had to story tell to people who didn't know how to read and write. And they had to do it simply because the people were peasants, most of them. Some of them were posh, but even those posh ones didn't know how to read and write. They had a scribe or a jester or whatever.
Right.
So the storytellers. And so we have this power to have the goddess or the god, Gaia, Sky Father, within and without.
Within and without. Very important, that point, within and without.
Yeah.
I was just going to add, when you said God, Allah, etc., it's the force. You called it the force, but it's the force that's nameless, right? Nameless, formless, right?
Absolutely.
Even those names that we've given are limiting to the force, right?
Yes.
And
totally.
And when you said inside and out, that's so important, because the Eastern traditions will say go in, go in, go in, and the Western traditions are outside. God's outside of you. You're looking up at him, or right? And it's neither. It's actually both or none.
Absolutely. And the other thing is that people must understand, and you will understand this as a shaman, which part of the world you come from.
Potato.
Yeah, tomato. The thing is, understand that whatever you want to call that power force, you are that power force.
Absolutely.
Therefore, you have the power to be, on the quantum field, a healer, a teacher, a storyteller. And like I say, in the past few weeks, and I think this is because of COVID, people have got more time to think. Lots of people are losing their jobs, so they're having to think, oh, well, what was I born with? How can I sort myself out? Oh, I was creative when I was a kid. I'm going to use that talent to now create a small industry. So this is happening all over the world. What's also happening,
so we're, so many people are forming bands and singing. And like, so
it's beautiful.
So much beautiful.
And that's what we're meant to be doing. We're born to be happy, joyful, have laughter, not the stress stuff that goes on where you're in this corporate building and you're all wound up and you've got to work Sunday nights and do this and that. Why?
That's right. That's
Why?
Right. Three quarters of our life is spent doing that. Like, it's not right. It's not fair. I mean,
it's not fair.
Each of us came here for a reason, and each of us has a purpose. And the fact is that as we move through our lives and as we interact with others and their desires, I think the purpose for us to be here is help everyone else's desires together.
100%. And that is the other thing is, and you and I were having a chat about this the other day, because every one of us are doing exactly what you and I are doing now. We are connecting via the internet, and the internet is a massive pulsing energetic force.
Absolutely is.
We are consequently relating, storytelling to each other, discussing things that normally without COVID we wouldn't be doing, because we wouldn't all be on the internet. Oh, we are. Yes, we are, but not like this.
Not almost forced into interacting with each other. And Zoom is a very different experience. You have to look at the person in the eyes. You do. You have to interact with them on a different level. And I felt it, and I'm sure you felt it, that it creates a different kind of synergy that wasn't there before.
Totally. So the other thing is, you and I were discussing our virtual backgrounds. So obviously I've got a virtual background, and you've got my favorite rock, the amethyst.
Yay.
Or crystal, whatever you want to call it. We now have a choice of also being able to put ourselves into our dream space. Our dream space is our virtual background. You said, your guide said, that's the one that you must have.
Yeah.
My guides have said, well, have a nice open place, because that's what you aspire towards. So absolutely. I am a great builder, a dream builder. Yes. I believe in coming from your dream, not going to your dream, that you can actually create that blueprint and live that blueprint into reality through manifestation. And manifestation is not woo-woo. It is not weird. The common thing that everybody uses now, which is just sort of like the branded thing, law of attraction.
Yes.
The law of attraction or manifestation is creating what you dream into reality.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those who believe in different faiths and religious texts, every single religious text has come with that message, seek and ye shall find, and ask and ye shall receive. Every single one has come with these gems of universal clues that have been provided to us to act on. If only, we didn't just read it with our left brain and really received it with the right brain, as we were meant to,
Totally. The other thing is, and just what you were saying there has made me spark something off. I interviewed somebody on Awaken Your Mind Magic some months ago.
Which is Susan's podcast, by the way.
Yes, it is. It's my podcast. It's my podcast. Love it. But Awaken Your Mind Magic, of course, is opening up your mind to the magic that you can create.
Yes.
And I interview just from, it can be a person who's not powerful and famous, and how they've changed their lives around from adversity into positivity. And
Absolutely.
they have this ability to do it because it's through the magic of your mind. And
Right.
I interview some famous people. They've
Right.
all done this. And a lot of us, and this is the storytelling, have gone
Yes.
through that adversity. We're gone through depression, near suicide, rebirth, being resuscitated after that, all of those things, into thinking, okay, well, I've got a second chance. Let me pull myself together, and what am I going to do about it? And then they understand that the 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 power of the fact that our spirit is eternal,
Yes.
and that we have this ability, huge ability, to create and invent whatever you want. I mean, look at Walt Disney.
Yeah. Look
You
at
know,
Walt. Yeah, absolutely.
that's from the power of your mind, or Picasso,
Yeah.
or
And
Michelangelo.
he acted on it, right? That's the number one thing. We see things, we have ideas pop into our mind all the time, and we think, wow, what a great idea. But do we act on it? And if we were to act on it, there would be more Walt Disneys in the world, you know?
They would, Shiraz. And the other thing is, when you think about this, why do you have that creative thought? You have that creative thought because your inner child, your intuition, or your guides are putting that thought there. Why
Right.
wouldn't you act on it? Why? Because you're conditioned from childhood that you can't do something. You can't
Right.
be an astronaut. It's not
Yes.
possible. You
Yeah.
can't play the piano. We don't have enough money. No, you can't play the piano,
Right. Right.
or any of those sort of things. So we conditioned into, oh, I can't do it.
Right.
And
Wow.
this is where we should be telling our children, you can be anything that you choose to be,
Right. I
because
was,
you are full of magic.
absolutely. I was going to share when I was a child, my grandma passed away of cancer. And as a child, I'm like, oh, I'm going to grow up and cure cancer, right? But as I'm growing up, it's like, I don't want to be a doctor. And I'm like, and there's been this struggle in my mind, right? Why didn't I want to be a doctor? I wanted to cure cancer. But as I aged and metaphysical realities came um, into my life, whether it was whatever it was, I realized I don't need to be a doctor to heal
No,
cancer. God's given
no,
me every single possible way of healing cancer,
absolutely.
whether it's music, whether it's crystals, whether it's emotion, dealing with emotions, whether it's every single possible one, sound frequencies, you know, toning, and every single, I've witnessed cancer healed or been told about cancer healed through all these different modalities. And then I realized, I asked for it and God gave it to me, you know,
There you go.
very
And
unconventionally, but he did.
but this is how it happens. Now, in true dream building, when you start to learn that when you're asking for something, but you don't
Yes.
specifically create exactly what you want, you do get it somehow. I mean,
Yes.
I know somebody who for a couple of years was saying, I hate my job.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to go and do so. I want to do what I truly want to do. And she was made redundant
Right.
after these continuous things, and devastated.
Yeah.
And then basically after that had to rethink, because it's during COVID now, and to find a new job is difficult. And she started to think, well, what can I do? What do I love? And she's now created an industry around a charity shops, where she goes and finds amazing things and recreates these amazing weird sculptures and sells them. And
Wow.
she's in her element. She's as happy as Larry because
Wow.
she's doing what she wants to do.
And
And
she,
she
yes.
is bringing in money, or
Yes.
fiat money,
Absolutely.
whatever. Time and money freedom.
You know, and as you say that, it's reminding me of a friend, client. There was a time when someone approached me, Cheryl, you have to help this person, right? She's got cancer. And at that time, I was doing something called NLP. I don't know if you're familiar with NLP.
Oh, I'm an NLP coach.
NLP.
I'm a self-help junkie. You ask what you know, Ho'oponopono, all of that.
Yes,
I've done
all
it.
of that. Absolutely, me too.
Curious
And
mind.
so in this situation, it was my very first few weeks after getting my certificate, and I just like, Lord, like, you know, help me help her. I don't know what to say or do, but you help me, right? And you know, I just want to. So she calls me and she's like telling me this. You know, she has cancer. She's really scared that in 2 weeks she has to have her MRI, right?
Yes,
and
sir.
and it pops into my head to say to her, is it possible for God to do anything? Yes. Anytime? Yes. Is it possible that your tumor could go away before the 2 weeks comes up? And she said yes. And so as soon as she said yes, it was like something opened up in her that, you know, hey, that's 2 weeks away. We don't have to think about that right now, you know? Right here, right now, we don't have to think about that, and anything can happen in 2 weeks, right? And so the other thing that comes to me is I have to ask her then is, did you have something to do with this? And I asked this question, and first it's like, how dare you, and blah, 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 right? For like a good, you know, 4 or 5 minutes. And then there was pin drop silence. And I'm like, hello, are you still there? And she says, oh my God, those are the words that come out of her mouth. And she's like, I did this. And I'm like, oh. And she figured it out. Like after that rant of getting upset with me for even implying that, she figured out that she was in her office and she was working in human resources, and she was getting all these forms for disabilities for you know, and they're getting money. They're getting free money because they're getting disability, right?
Yep.
And she's like, if only I could have money like that, you know, just free. Someone gives it to me and I don't have to worry about coming to work. And she remembered that thought. So and she goes, I'm really sorry for saying all the things I said to you. And I did do this to me. Thank you. And she says, but I have to go and contemplate now. So I'm sorry I made you feel this way. You know, I hope everything works out. If you need anything, give me a call. So I don't hear from her for the next day, but the following day she calls me. And she's like, it's gone, right? This is just the first word she says to me, it's gone. I'm like, what's gone? She's like, it's gone. I know it's gone. And I'm like, what do you mean? And so she's like, I had a dream last night, and in my dream, I'm going to work and everyone's glowing and I'm glowing. And everyone's saying, wow, you look amazing, you know? It's so amazing that you've gotten through this, right? And she had this dream, and when I woke up, I knew it was gone. She's like, doesn't matter what happens now in 2 weeks, right? And sure enough, she goes to her MRI, and we don't know what happened. It's not here anymore.
Power of the mind, and it's the ability of actually understanding you can self-heal. And
Absolutely.
you know, even if it had been put into remission, the fact is you can actually, obviously the more advanced it is,
Yes.
the fact is you can actually contain something.
Yeah.
Because it's not a part of what you meant to be as a human. You're not meant to be sick and poorly. You're meant to live, your spirit's meant to understand the human experience and live the best life possible. But again, like you say, you're conditioned into thinking, oh no, I got to have traditional medicine, I got to do this, I got to do that, and this is the only way. But that's because of the massive pharmaceutical companies and everything else. We won't go into this because obviously it's not PC, but it's where we have all been like lemmings indoctrinated into believing there is only one way.
Right. And we're
And
not denying that one way, but we're also asking everyone to be open to other possibilities.
totally.
And most importantly, be open to the possibility of you, right?
Yeah, totally. Because we are incredible. We, when my coaching, because I'm a transformative, heart-centered coach, and I do intuitive coaching, and when my clients come to me, I say to every one of them, you are far more powerful than you can even contemplate. You have this ability, and as they progress through the time spent with me, they start, like your client did, they start to understand that you can actually either, through your thoughts and your words, make yourself sick or make yourself better, or be a very happy, balanced person, human, with incredible spirit within and without you.
Right.
Because you are all interconnected and you have this ability.
Right. Yes.
So,
and when you say that to me about the interconnectedness and how you empower your client with that, what I want to ask you now is, what gives you the confidence to be able to say that to a client? What is it that gives you that knowingness so that you can say that with such certainty? And how do we bring that certainty to everyone else?
I believe it's, again, through storytelling, because I'm a transformative storyteller as well. Which one?
I told you a story. Now you please tell us one.
So I can tell you a story. So my husband died 5 years ago. And when he passed, and I'd been married to him for 30 years, and it was a very confusing marriage, but traditionally I stayed with him because that's what I was meant to do, according to society, old-fashioned society.
Yes.
I've already told you my generation. So I'm a baby boomer, and we were kind of like stiff lip, and if it doesn't work so well, you've got to stay together because of the children. Meanwhile, you're wrecking the poor kids' minds because you're not getting on so well, or whatever, being abused, beaten up, whatever. Yes. Anyway, after he passed away, there were various things that I found out about him that were really shocking to me and my kids, my daughters. They were grown up at the time, obviously they still are. And I was in a little English town in Kent on the coast, and I was distressed, depressed, angry, because I discovered that I'd been married to a closet gay. Not to say that I don't love gay people. I have many wonderful gay friends.
Right.
But he'd lived a lie, and he'd used me and my children as a sort of cover. And that for me was very upsetting, because we'd been used. And then on top of that, he'd been blackmailed. And he'd been blackmailed by somebody who knew about his secret life and knew that the poor man, if you think about it, it must have been awful for him. And basically didn't want us to know, and continue living, because he loved us. He genuinely did. But he just sadly was in a generation as well where he had to cover up his true self.
Yes.
And the whole story is that I was more upset about being left without a lot of money because he was being blackmailed by this rather nasty person. Oh, no. And so I was walking up and down the beach. It was in the wintertime, and anybody who's lived in England,
down the beach in the winter,
yeah, and shouting and screaming and raising my fist.
Were you doing one of those rituals too? That
well, actually, because I'd been married to a very straight-laced person, I wasn't allowed to be who I truly am. So when he passed away, I could blossom and actually become once again the woo-woo person that I am.
Right.
Anyway, I was on the beach, I was shaking my fist, and I was saying, "My God, why me? Well, how could
Right.
this happen?" Of course,
Right.
the beach was very empty because it was winter.
Of course.
And one day I was sitting on this big pile of rocks because I did this for about 2 weeks, and I was feeling very sorry for myself. And I was sitting on this big pile of rocks, looking over the English Channel towards France, because you can, on a clear day, you can see France, and sort of shouting at God again and, "Ah," and swearing
Yeah.
and being really upset. And there was this lone seagull, and it kept on flying out towards France and then doing a barrel roll and coming back towards me and dive bombing me. And I got really cross with the seagull. I swore at it quite badly. And it went out again towards France, and it came back and it flew low over me and it pooped right between my eyes. I got a sense of humor. I just packed out. Oh, it was awful. I sort of wiped. Fortunately, I wear glasses, so I sort of
Have you
wiped
seen
that.
Have you seen that movie Under the Tuscan Sun?
Yes, I have. I hadn't thought
I'll
about
see
that. Well, I packed out laughing because that was my message. I'd been asking God, and God sent me a message, Spirit. And basically what it was shit happens, princess. Suck it up. Get on with your life. And I just wiped this poop off and I clambered down off the rocks. It was almost like, oh, it was like this wonderful, he'd slapped me with a big wet fish. Well, actually with a big wet poop. And I went up the hill, and my house was quite close to the beach. And I got into the shower, and very often when you've been through a bit of a tragedy, you want to wash it all off. Well, I needed to anyway. I had poop all over me, and it was very fishy. So anyway, it was not very nice to keep. So I showered, and I was in the shower for a long time, lots of cleansing going on, lots of self-talk. And then the realization that I'm alive, he's dead. I now can be who I truly want to be, and I have free license to do so. And sure, I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have exactly the type of life that I thought it had been. Yes, I'd been cheated, I thought at the time, but I realized that that was my lesson.
Right.
And I had more stories to tell. So I basically rethought, because I've been an education consultant. I write special programs for I work with Asperger's and dyslexia, and I write special programs for kids and stuff like that. So I thought, I don't want to do this anymore. I can be who I want to be now, and that's a healer. Right. And I can be the storyteller, and I can be a white witch or anything that I choose to be. Nobody's going to tell me I can't.
Right. Right.
And so I came into my own. And the basic part of that is I then actually decided I wanted to train in the quantum and metaphysics field. I wanted to use the magic that we all have. Absolutely. And so I trained with Life Mastery Institute. They're now called Brave Thinking Masters in LA. Mary Morrissey is my mentor.
Yes.
Yeah. So she's my mentor.
Wonderful.
And I love her to bits. She's an amazing woman, but her children are also all my mentors. Oh, they're all in this. They're marketing specialists, business specialists. Wonderful. They teach you how to speak, all of this sort of things. So 12 months of that, and I was very fortunate. Absolutely. And incredible training. And so consequently, that is how I reached becoming a transformative coach. 12 months of serious training. Right. And massive investment. I sort of sucked that up too. I thought, oh, okay, well, I really want to be this. I'm going to do it. Right. And within that time, when I created my first blueprint, I wrote in my blueprint that I would be a bestseller within 2 years with a self-help program for empaths, because I'm an empath. Most of us are in this field. Yeah. And for them to understand, because I kept on researching, and I discovered what a narcissist was, a real narcissist. People use that word so loosely now. Oh, he's horrible, he's a narcissist. A narcissist it's clinically proven that they have huge issues. They are like a psychopath or, sociopath. That's what they are.
Right.
So I wanted to find out more. So I wrote a little self-help book that I was going to use as a giveaway.
Yes.
At my talks and workshops.
Right.
What's
the book called?
It's called Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf?
Ah.
And
I'm afraid of the bad wolf.
Well, sometimes you sort of have to look and you wonder who the big bad wolf is, and you can be living with that big bad wolf, and then you start to reflect back. And as a writer, and because I studied journalism many years ago, and I realized the power in journaling. And in the course of my marriage, I had journaled every day, and it was self-healing. I didn't know I was doing this for free stuff that was self-healing. It wasn't Suki Lala, all I'm sorry for myself. Right. It was just writing about what I saw. I did a few little sketches because, that's what I was doing. And it was healing. And because I understood art therapy, it helped. And I never had to go for, even after my husband died, I didn't have to go for counseling or anything else like that. I started to read through my journals, and I started to understand more and more my marriage and why I was doing what I was, because I'm an enabler as an empath. Yeah. I want to fix people, and I couldn't understand that. I also didn't understand that I was an empath. Right. I didn't understand when I really started going into it that if I went somewhere, people would automatically tell me a story.
For those who don't know what an empath is, will you share a little bit about what an empath is for our audience?
Yeah, so there are different types of empaths, but basically what an empath is a person who is very kind and often are seen as being very weak by certain personalities. And what you are is you have this ability to be able to absorb other people's pain. And you have this intuition of being able to understand what's inside that person. So you could be sitting on a train, somebody will come and sit next to you, and they suddenly start telling you their life story or their sadness. And then they'll say to you, I don't know why I'm talking to you. I don't even know you. And they go and get off the train feeling really great. And you're exhausted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So until you actually understand your ability and who you are, you don't know how to zip yourself up. So people call them emotional vampires.
Yes.
Because what they do is they suck out your ability to heal. And they walk off feeling healed, and you're like, so when you start to understand your power, you have the ability as well to be able to zip yourself up. Right. I call them shadow gobblers. Because it's like Peter Pan, they'll take shadow away.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's not because they're horrible or anything. It's just because they can, and because you are an enabler and you have the ability to allow people to do that until you learn that you mustn't.
Right.
That you can use that tool, but
in many cases they don't even know that they're doing it, right?
No, they don't. No. However, a narcissist is attracted to an empath very easily because they're calculating, they understand exactly who they're going to use, and there's lots of different terms. They talk about gaslighting and all sorts of things. So an empath is also, they believe everything they're told, usually, until you start to say,
I'm one of those.
Yeah. And so they can tell you that you've done something when you haven't. Right. And they keep on telling you. It's like drip, drip, water torture. And you start to think, oh, I must have.
Right. Yeah.
And that's called gaslighting.
I see. So when we talk about narcissists, I've done a little bit of study on narcissists, and what I've learned is, I mean, they can have a mental exam. Sorry, I don't know what the exact terminology for that is, and come out with flying colors, but still have this persona about them, or this character about them, and the qualities that we have that are associated with a narcissist. So what's the difference between someone who's diagnosed correctly and not diagnosed correctly? Would you be able to speak to that?
Yes, one of your first things is be very aware they're charismatic.
Yes.
That they're usually pretty good looking.
Yes.
They love to look good. and initially when they actually connect with you, you're pretty attractive, you're vivacious, you're appealing.
Right.
So they take you and they utilize you for public. Look, I've got my trophy wife or my trophy husband, because
right.
It's not just men who are narcissists. I've coached some people who've had wives or partners who've beaten them up and done all sorts of terrible things. But what they do is they make you feel amazing.
Right.
And then they hook you in, and because they see what they see as your weakness, which is your kindness and your ability to want to heal and fix things. And automatically as an empath, you are attracted to these people because you want to fix them.
Right.
None of us can fix anybody.
No one can fix anybody.
So when you have to start understanding that, you have to start understanding that you cannot fix everyone. You can actually intuitively coach them into learning how to deal with themselves, but you can't tell them how. So like you were speaking about the lady earlier on with going in for MRI, you basically got her to understand that her way of thinking is what created where she was, and that she had this ability and power to be able to think in a different way, to be able to get to release healed that or healthy. And that's what we healers do as well. We intuitively I mean, I'm also a Reiki master, so intuitively, with the power of your energetic force, you help them learn how to energetically clean and cleanse and fix themselves.
Right, absolutely. And when you use the word fix somebody, like, language is really important too. If you hear yourself saying that all the time, I can't fix this, or I'm trying to fix this and I can't, or that language alone, you should recognize that your language is telling you that you think you're someone who can fix something when truly you can't.
Absolutely. So this is also when you start to awaken your mind magic, where you start to become totally aware of who you are. And then this is where you start to empower yourself into being an incredible power force, and not an enabler.
Right.
Because when you're aware of the fact that you can do that, or that you do that and you've been doing it all your life, and these people will come towards you and you're tired and you're exhausted. And I mean, many of us feel going into a crowded room, it's like, oh, who am I going to absorb now? You learn how to close yourself off. So that you have a protective shell around you, whatever it is, what you want to, Some of my clients, they design eggs and they climb into an egg, and other clients wear Wonder Woman suits, power suits.
Up your jacket.
They're cool. I love their minds, because that's when they're starting to be creative. But that's when you put on this invisible, like in Star Wars, you put on your invisible shield and you're cool. So, but with my book, I learned through 12 months of training about manifesting and about the power of law of attraction, all of this sort of thing. I wrote in my first blueprint that within 2 years, I'd have a bestseller. Now, what universe does is it can accelerate, and it can happen quickly. It was in 3 months, I'd written this little self-help book that I thought I was going to be giving away at my workshops.
Yes.
And my talks. And it became a bestseller within 3 months. I got my bestseller in 3 months, not in 2 years.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah, and we can totally do that, Shiraz.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. We all have a bestseller in us. Every one of us.
We all have a story.
We all have a story. We have stories, not story. We all have lived, and we need to bring our stories to light for others. Everyone can help another through a story. You know, maybe that's a project we can do together. Invite people to submit their stories, and let's compile a book of stories.
We could in Podcaster Place in our group there on
Sure,
Facebook.
Absolutely. Metaphysical Hub, Podcaster Place, whichever. All of them.
Yeah, all of them. It'll be perfect. And Metaphysical Hub.
Yeah.
It'll be great. The thing that I love is, and as I was saying to you earlier on, people I've spoken to in the last few weeks all over the world coming into their power, and they're all saying, I am the sage. I am the crone. I am the wise woman or the wise man. And I have these stories. And many of our stories that come out, what we think is out of our imagination, is actually coming out of our past lives.
Oh, wow.
And that's where you start saying, I have this power because we have these past lives that we've lived.
We better talk about past lives then a little bit. Let's talk about past lives to people who don't believe in past lives. What do we say to them?
Well, I will say to you, I interviewed an amazing man some months ago. And it was really hilarious because I could not say the word I'm doing it again. Epigenetics.
Epigenetics.
And he is qualified and trained in this. And it is science. And it is proven that genetically we are interconnected right through our lineage. And where we are mentally, physically, and everything that we have, it's not just, oh, well, do you have any health records? Did your mother have cancer? Or did your dad have, I don't know, whatever, a sore knee and arthritis? That we've understood through the medical professions. And they've asked you these things. But consider this. We've automatically thought, oh, yeah, well, my grandmother this and my father that, and my great-grandfather had this problem, and my great-great-grandmother was an alcoholic. And we've recorded this, and we've accepted it. So open the box, think out of the box, and say to yourself, well, if that is proven, and it's been going on since even before I was born into this life.
Wow.
Why on earth would we not have the other genetic material that comes down of the different things that have happened in your life? So why are we not carrying through a tragedy that happened 3 generations ago? And that is why I have dyslexia, or that is why I have fear of spiders, or that is why I'm scared of going on water. Because 3 generations ago, if you research, those poor people. Yeah, well, I was the baby that was saved that went out in one of the boats from the Titanic. But or that sort of thing. And
when you say that, the thought that comes to mind is we say right now, you know, we're all one. Everyone around us is us, and we are them. Well, then why can't that be also throughout time?
Absolutely. And again, everything's an illusion.
Right. And everything's an illusion. And why can't it be everything in the future as well? Right.
Exactly.
So, and past, future, again, like you said, is an illusion.
So I've done a timeline therapy. I do timeline therapy, which, and you would have studied
Dolores Cannon's timeline therapy. Yes.
I've done it with the Tad James timeline therapy along with hypnosis.
Oh yes, that's NLP. Yes.
What NLP?
I remember his name.
And also I was using timeline anyway for years since I was with Maria, the Yoruba priestess I told you about. Yes. And the interesting thing is when you actually start looking at what's happened to them, you can change what has what has happened mentally in the person who's living now. So they
Right.
stop having a phobia, or they stop hating themselves, or they stop overeating and being fat, or
Right.
because they were in a famine. They genetically, 4 or 5 generations ago, they went through the Great Famine, the potato
Right.
famine, or so it's important for you to understand your heritage, where you
Right.
came from, and why.
Absolutely.
So,
Because
you talk about Tanzania.
yes.
What happened in Tanzania was frightening to all the Asian population that were there.
Yeah. Yeah. We were our homes were nationalized, and we had to leave. And luckily, we the faith I belong to, I'm a Ismaili Muslim, and so we have our spiritual leader, His Highness Yaga Khan, and
Yeah,
he made sure that we were all taken out of that situation and brought to the West, right?
there you go.
Without that, like, I mean, without that assistance and help, we would have been lost.
Absolutely. And for me, we had a massive coffee estate in Zimbabwe. And
Right.
suddenly we were on the first 500 lists of farms by Mugabe. He aspired towards these very lucrative farms. He didn't give a
Yes.
damn about who worked
No.
there or anything else. He wanted them.
Yeah.
So we lost our homes, livelihoods, and 1,200 people who we employed overnight. We lost everything, and
Yeah.
through total violence. And so
Yes.
consequently, you think about the rebirth of those people one day, and
Yeah.
that trauma that's there. And it's
Yeah.
the same. I worked with somebody who was in the Mau Mau in Kenya. Now, the
Right.
Mau Mau in Kenya was horrific. It was
Yeah.
it was as bad as what happened in Zimbabwe, which is another story. I won't talk about that. It's not a nice story. We won't be talking about that this
I think
time.
we should do a series of your life stories, because I have a feeling there's some amazing stories there. And you said, before we got on air, actually, you said that I'm thinking about whether I should do this full time or part time. Are you kidding me? You definitely should do this full time. You practice what you preach, girl.
I'm listening to you, Mama. It is. It's what I'm here for. And even when I was teaching,
Yes.
I'm very fortunate. I from the age of 3, I was up on a stage, so I I have the ability to be able to get up there and not have knocky knees and think, ah, there's a whole
Yeah.
lot of people looking at me. I learned long ago to actually look above their heads and just talk my talk, walk my
Right.
walk.
Yeah,
And now I better do it.
talking I don't seem to have an issue with. My eyes go somewhere else and I'm still talking. But when it comes to singing, yes, then that's when everything falls apart.
I do that for karaoke. My favorite is Summertime. I can do that one. Or when I'm working with somebody through spirit
Right.
and as a shaman. That just comes because I can't help it. It just happens. It still comes.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not doing that. Whatever's happening through me is happening.
Amazing. Amazing.
But
Wow.
what I do know is, and this is what I'd love to say to your guests, Sharon,
Please.
is universe understands more than anything else joy, happiness, and love. And when you have that, you have such a rich life. You have everything.
Right.
Understand dance. You can dance for yourself. You don't have to wait to be asked to dance.
Right.
Music.
Yes.
Everything that is beautiful that we've been given.
Yes.
And this isn't woo-woo. This is a fact. It's good for you to smile. It's good for your soul.
Yeah.
And when you're joyful, good things happen to you because you have joyful thoughts.
Right.
That is most important.
It sure certainly is. We just had our December 13th is His Highness's birthday, and as a community we celebrate it. So because we don't have, of course, we're not allowed to go anywhere. We had a Zoom TV channel, and it was all day of music and dance and singing, and people were saying to me, like, how can you have so much fun when when so much is happening in the world? Are you kidding me? Like, this is what it takes to raise everyone's vibe up.
Absolutely. You know, again, we were talking about this last time we chatted, but this time as well. Yes, COVID-19 has taken many lives, and I'm so sad for what it's
Absolutely.
done to
Absolutely.
many families, including it's taken my mom's life, on the 16th of July. And it was very
God.
traumatic because none of us
Oh
could
my
be with her
God.
because we were in different parts of the world. But what I do understand that COVID-19 has done for us is, like you saying, you were dancing and you were having this wonderful, joyful time. You were celebrating an important person's life
Yes.
on the 13th of December. And we
Yes.
can do that whether the person's important or not. But what we
Absolutely.
have this
We're
is
all
this,
important.
yeah, we have this interconnection now because of COVID. We have
Yes.
this interconnection where we can do, we can do transcendental dance. We can do
Yeah.
transformative movement.
We can do
we can
anything.
do all,
No
yeah.
rules
And
out there right now.
yeah, I mean, we are blessed at the moment to learn how to be the true creatives that we were born to be. That we
Absolutely.
signed an Akashic record, we signed a contract, a sacred contract, to be here in this time. We are not here by mistake. Every single one of us are here during this worldwide pandemic
Right.
for a reason. And if we can actually open our minds to why and take time to meditate, go deep in, Spirit will tell you. We weren't born to go and work 9 to 5 and slog it
No.
and have heart attacks and
No.
headaches and
Yes. Like you said, or like the bird, said to get over it.
with bird poop.
The bird
Shit
poop.
happens, baby.
It
Suck it up,
happens, baby.
princess.
Suck it up. Right? All those things that are happening, just suck it up and love your life and enjoy your life and feel your life and just be in it and experience it, right? To the
Absolutely.
fullest. To the fullest.
Totally.
Yes, there'll always be those things popping up here and there, but that's when you transform them. Spirit once said to me, to say 3 words, or maybe it's 4. I choose a different reality.
There you go.
Choose a different reality in whatever experience you're having that makes you feel out of sorts. I choose a different reality.
Absolutely. And this is the importance of people understanding. You have those choices.
Absolutely.
And you have the choice with the words that you use.
Yes.
Because words become things.
Yes, words become things.
Yeah.
In the beginning was the word.
There you are.
In the beginning was the word.
And in all of these incredible old books, the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, all of these, all of them, they all have these. When you read through them again with a different mindset, you think, oh,
yes,
these guys were all into the quantum field way before I started to learn about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can't deny it, because you got to pick up these books and read them not from that mindset of duality, right?
And it's religion. You've got to do this my way. No.
Yeah, it's not about the duality. Like, even, there's separation in the, let's say there's stories of nations separating. Well, you need to realize your left and your right brain, are 2 separate things, and you got to come together, and they're apart. And it's a story of bringing those 2 things together, right? The darkness and the light. And it ultimately, any story that talks about separation, you got to look at it in a way that, hey, it's trying to pull you together. It's trying to show you, don't be separate.
100%. You don't want to be separate. It's a yin and yang.
Yeah.
It's everything that you gain. And your power of now, your power of living in the now, is exactly where you're meant to be.
Absolutely.
So whatever you do right now, in this instant, in this minute, has to be extremely important. That is
and it
total
is.
mindfulness.
I'm talking to you, Susan, and it's so important.
I love it. Thank you for that, darling. I love that. It's wonderful.
I
It's
love
very
you.
important that we both talk to each other, and I do love you so.
We only met, by the way, through quite fluke, and a mutual friend brought a group together, and that's
Yeah.
how we met. Then this is only the second time I've talked to Susan, but I feel super connected, and I'm sure
Yeah.
you do too. And
We are, because
it's
somewhere in our
something beyond
genetic,
us, right?
yeah, well, something in our genetic pool, we were soul sisters, and
Absolutely.
we've come together now because we've opened up, and this is who we are. And you're on one side of the world, and I'm on the other side of the world, but it doesn't make any difference because we
No, it
have
doesn't.
internet. Yay!
Absolutely. Virtual hug.
Yeah. I
So
love it.
you mentioned in previously the words Akashic Records. So will you now tell people who don't know about Akashic Records what Akashic Records are?
Well, basically, it's what's happened in your past, and universe keeps a record of everything. So
Yes.
it's that. If I went into this, would be another whole story. So we'll keep that for another time.
Okay, but we're holding you to it.
Okay.
We're holding you to it. One other thing I want to hold you to, and just keep this in your mind for next time, is this whole idea of, well, okay, we have auras, and we have psychics, and we have healers, and we have crystals, and we have emotion techniques, and we have quantum healing, and we have all these things. But what about the regular, ordinary, day-to-day things? The things that bring people to their knees to the point where they want to commit suicide, where they don't know what to do. They're so stuck, and they can't see the light of day. When you say to one of these people, hey, let me tell you about quantum healing, and they're in the depth of their dark side of the soul, let's call it that, you can't bring these things to them just yet.
What I would say is, and it's very important for all of us in these magical fields, is to understand that a lot of the people in those areas have not had the privilege of understanding the quantum field.
Right.
And when they do zone towards you, nothing is in error. Everything is for a reason. So
Absolutely.
I would say this more to the healers out there,
Yeah.
and the people working in these fields,
Yes.
is they have been brought to you by spirit, and it's for a reason. And I say to people when they come to me, and I listen to them first, I always say to them, do you believe that coming to me was just coincidence? Just
beautiful.
You. And I always say to them, because it wasn't.
Yes.
And the most important thing is, and especially people, because I deal with a lot of people who are depressed and suicidal, the most important thing is for them to understand that they are the master of their own destinies, and that things that have been extremely adverse can be turned into their life lesson. And once they learn to detach themselves, when they untether themselves from that hurt or sadness, and they can look at it objectively from it as if it was there, and they're here now, they then actually can start to self-heal and learn. And the most important thing is for them to understand is whatever's happened to them before. They've survived as a survivor. They have this huge power, and to actually learn to start to love themselves. So the most important thing is inner child therapy,
Yes.
and learning, and for them to learn that there's an inner child in there that's hurt that can be healed.
Yes.
So that's basically how I work it. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for that, Susan. I've loved this. I've exhausted my questions. In fact, actually, I haven't exhausted my questions. I could keep going, but in the interest of time, I have exhausted my questions. Would you please share with us anything that you want to share with us at this point now, that maybe I've missed, maybe I wouldn't have even thought to ask you. Maybe it's something that you want to share and don't want me to end this without you saying what you want to say. Would you share that with us before we go?
Absolutely. And it's something that I share on most interviews, and that is, you can't get to your dream. You've got to come from your dream.
Beautiful.
So the most important thing for everybody to understand, whether you're doing a vision board or whether you writing it down, is you create the dream you truly would love to live. And that's in all 4 areas of your life. And that's time and money freedom, health and wellness, love and relationships, and vocation. Vocation, of course, is your calling.
Yes.
Where, you know,
not your job. Not your job.
No, it's your calling. It's why you're here, your why.
Yeah.
And so when you create that and you sit down, maybe you don't want to believe in it at the time, but if you have somebody like Shiraz or myself or one of our other sisters or brothers out there who have the ability to do this, we hold the space for them. We are the partner in believing, to know and help them. If they can't believe in their dream, you can believe for them. That's
Absolutely.
what dreaming's all about.
That's what dreaming's all about. Thank you, Susan. It was an honor. It was so much fun. And it really did feel like this is what I wanted to do in the moment. Thank you again. And we hope to have you back.
Oh, definitely. And my turn next. I'm going to have you on Awaken Your Mind Magic.
Absolutely. We'll do it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste.